All right. The first thing I have to do, because this is a virtual meeting, is I have to read Governor Northam's declaration. So bear with me. In accordance with Governor Ralph Northam's declaration of a state of emergency due to novel coronavirus, Executive Order 51 on March 12, 2020, and the local declaration of emergency ratified by the Portsmouth City Council, and due to the coronavirus pandemic, which is continuing in the Commonwealth of Virginia, this meeting of the Portsmouth Economic Development Authority, of the Portsmouth Ports and Industrial Commission. It's an old sheet. It's being held by video conference on the 27th day of October 2020 without a quorum present in the 6th floor conference room in City Hall in order to reduce the likely spread of coronavirus. Each PPIC member is participating from their home or office. This meeting is being held in accordance with Portsmouth City Ordinance 2020-102. Notice of public access and participation in this electronic meeting was posted on the PPIC and city websites, and comments to the board about this meeting were received by PPIC staff via the portico@portsmouthvirginia.gov email address. Okay, so we're official. Welcome everybody. I'm Jim Toops. I'm chairman. I do have dogs in the room you can hear. And just want to welcome, we have two new members, Dan and Daniel. It should be easy to remember y'all's names. Welcome, and I'm going to do the roll call, and then I'll ask Dan and Daniel to just say a little bit about themselves before we get going. So if Brian, if you want to do the roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barham.
Here.
Mr. Evans.
Here.
Mr. Evans, there you go. Thank you, sir. Mr. Peterman.
Here.
Mr. Stevens. Commissioner Stevens. I believe you may be on mute, sir. Okay, we'll come back to Mr. Stevens. Chair Toops.
Here.
And Mr. Stevens. Okay, he was on a moment ago. I do believe we have a quorum. I believe Mr. Stevens will be joining us, but Chairman Toops, we do have a quorum.
Great. If you'd like to ask Mr. Evans to tell us a little bit about himself, we're welcome and happy to have you.
Hello, I'm Dan Evans, and many of you may know that I used to have Evans Electric up until 2007, and I sold it. And since then, I've worked for one of my former suppliers, and for the last 4 years, I've had an independent rep agency where I sell products from manufacturers to wholesalers across the country, HVAC wholesalers for the most part, and live downtown in Admiral's Landing, where the view is ever changing, and walking distance to all the fine restaurants downtown, and loving life.
Thank you. You want to, Mr. Stevens, are you on now? Okay. If he pops up, we'll let him introduce himself. But everybody should have gotten a copy of the minutes from the June 23rd meeting.
Chair, excuse me, just before you move on, we do have two other introductions that we'd like to make this morning. And those are some exciting announcements that we have to make. We do have the addition of two new team members on your call this morning. So I would like to introduce those team members to you, and we have them logging in now. So we have recently added 2 additional team members to the Economic Development Office here in Portsmouth. They are Jenny Osborne and Ms. Pam Kroom. Very excited to have them both on board. Ms. Osborne comes to us from her former employer, the Portsmouth Partnership, where she was the assistant director. She will be overseeing our business retention and expansion efforts on behalf of the city. So very excited to have her on board. She started just over 2 weeks ago, and she will be providing direct assistance to our existing business community. So very important role, and again, very excited to have her on board. And the second team member is Ms. Pam Kroom, who comes to us most recently from Hampton. Ms. Kroom will be overseeing our workforce development and talent development efforts here in the city. So that is a new venture for our office, one that we believe is essential to the economic resiliency of our community, and she will be focusing on workforce and talent, and has jumped headfirst into that. So I'm going to give them both an opportunity just to say hello this morning, and then Chair Toops will turn it back over to you. So Ms. Osborne, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Brian. So as Brian mentioned, my name is Jenny Osborne. I'm coming to you most recently from the Portsmouth Partnership, which is directly across the hall. So my commute is pretty much the same as it used to be. I have a background in real estate and mortgage, and I am really looking forward to focusing on business retention and expansion here in Portsmouth, and I'm pleased to meet all of you this morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good morning. I'm Pam Kroom, and it is wonderful to join the team here in Portsmouth. As Mr. Donahue stated, I am from Hampton. I've been working the Workforce Development Initiative on the peninsula for over 5 years now, so I'm very excited to bring my knowledge and experience here to Portsmouth, where there are so many opportunities and great things going on. So I'm looking forward to working with each of you, and thank you for having me this morning.
Welcome. Be excited to work with y'all. We're doing good things in Portsmouth, and it's nice to have more members of the team. We're growing. That's a good thing. So going on to the minutes, y'all should have received a copy. Ask that y'all look, and if it's acceptable that someone make a motion.
This is Ron Peterman. I make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Ron and a second from Ned. Brian?
Yes, roll call. Mr. Barham.
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Mr. Peterman.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Toops.
Yes.
The minutes are adopted as presented.
Before I move on, next item, Mr. Stevens, would you like to introduce yourself and just say a little bit about yourself for the other commissioners and the persons on the line?
Yes, sir. And I want to apologize. One thing that I'll say while I'm on this commission, don't trust me for computer technology. I'm pretty challenged with the computer. So I don't know what's going on with my camera right now, but when we finish this, I will get the IT man in here to see what's going on. But anyway, I own Port Rail Crane Service located here on Mariner Avenue in Portsmouth, actually right in front of the brand new Lineage freezer that's being built. It's right across the street from my property. I've spent my entire career at the Port of Virginia. Well, I started at the Port of Virginia as a technician, worked there 13 years, worked my way up to management, I left in the year 2000 and started my own company called Port Equipment Service then. That company was acquired by Kalmar, one of the European crane manufacturers, and I worked in the corporate world for about 7 years and left in 2015 and started the company that I have now, Port Rail Crane Service. And I'm sure that y'all are aware of the $700 million expansion at the port. And my company was lucky enough and blessed to get the contract to build those cranes. We are complete now. Semi-automated cranes, unbelievable pieces of equipment, and really has allowed the port to perform at levels that should cascade us up into the port on the East Coast soon. So we're very excited about that. I'm very honored and excited to be part of this commission and hope that there's a way that I can make a difference in Portsmouth. I've lived here ever since I've moved to Virginia in Portsmouth. My business is in Portsmouth, and I'm ready to go.
It's great to have you, and welcome, and you can help us continue to do and build on doing some great things together. So it's great to have you.
Thank you.
Could I just ask a question? I know that, trying to jumpstart you with, what we're doing and what we've been up to for the last year or so. Have you got a back brief from anybody, or do you have any material that all the things we've been up to?
Yes, I received several things at the city office the other day, and I have reviewed those. I can say that I'll need some guidance and help in understanding everything on the path that we're on now. So I'm anxious to learn about everything that we're doing and how I can participate to help.
Okay, thank you so much.
And Ron, that's a great point. Part of what we're doing in the old business is going through the items that we have open because just to help get everybody up to snuff, and it's been a while. So that's a good point. Is Cherry Beckert on, or how are we doing the audit, Brian?
Chairman, we do have Cherry Beckert on the line. I believe we can promote them here if you're ready for the FY 2020 audit report presentation.
Which everyone should have a copy of.
Yes, it was included in your package that went out last week. So we do have this morning Ms. Laura Harden and Luke Reynolds with Cherry Beckert. They are the city and PPIC auditor, and they do provide financial review services for PPIC. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Harden and Mr. Reynolds and allow for them to present the audit presentation for your consideration.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us here today to present the results of the fiscal year 2020 audit. My name is Laura Harden. I'm the audit director on this engagement, and I have with me today Luke Reynolds, who is the audit manager. Brian, could you move forward to the next slide? So we have just a few things that we are going to discuss with you today. Luke is going to cover what our services were. I will cover the audit results as well as some required communications. And then Luke will go over just briefly some future accounting and reporting changes. So if you can move forward 2 slides, then Luke will take it over.
Morning. You've engaged us to perform the following services. We performed an audit of the Commission's fiscal year 2020 financial statements, as well as compliance audit of the authority's compliance with APA, the Auditor of Public Accounts specifications for audits of authorities, boards, and commissions, as well as audit under government auditing standards. Our timing for these audits was we began our field work in September of 2020, and we issued the financial statements in October of 2020. You can go to the next slide, Brian.
Go forward 1 more, please. Thank you. So our opinion on the 2020 financial statements was unmodified. This is the best opinion that you can get as a result of an audit. Additionally, we noted no material weaknesses in internal control over financial reporting. If we had noted anything, we would be required to communicate those to you. In addition, we had nothing that came to our attention where we noted any kind of non-compliance with laws or regulations that could have a material effect on the financial statements. Please move forward 2 more slides. One more. Okay, thank you. So during the year, there were no changes in accounting policies during 2020. So this means that nothing, so the financial statements are consistent with the policies used during the fiscal year 2019 audit. In addition, there are some numbers in the financial statements that are considered to be estimates and are based on management's judgment. That means that these aren't hard and fast numbers, that they can be subject to change based on the inputs of those. The most significant to the PPIC is the impairment of property held for resale. In addition, we did not have any uncorrected misstatements in the financial statements or any audit adjustments that we made during the audit. Move forward 1 slide. If we had any disagreements with management, we would be required to communicate those to you, but I'm happy to report that we did not. In addition, we didn't encounter any difficulties in performing our audit, and we are not aware that the PPIC had any consultations with other accountants that would be considered to be opinion shopping. Please move forward to the next slide. We also had the PPIC signed a management representation letter on October 2nd of 2020, basically just saying that they have provided us all information that was needed during the audit for us to complete our procedures. In addition, we are independent of the PPIC. And then lastly, in the financial statements, there is a section called the Management's Discussion and Analysis, and we did apply limited procedures during our audit process to those, which included comparing the numbers to the audited financial statements, but we do not offer an opinion on the MD&A. So I'm going to turn it back over to Luke to go over some future accounting and reporting changes, and we can advance 2 more slides.
All right, just some upcoming accounting pronouncements to be aware of. Brian, if you just want to slowly scroll through these, I won't read them all out loud, but just so you're aware of some of these upcoming pronouncements. Due to the nature of the activities of the PPIC, Statement 87 for lease standards could be applicable in the future, depending on types of leases the PPIC engages in. The other standards are just something to be aware of. But nothing that appears to be immediately materially impactful to the PPIC. All right.
So that concludes our presentation. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Laura and Luke. And I also just want to add, we do have Patty Phillips, who is working on behalf of the Finance Department, on the line as well to answer any specific financial questions that you may have this morning in regards to the audit.
With no questions, I think, Brian, we need to vote to accept the audit, if I understand correctly.
Yes, sir, that is correct. We do require a vote to approve the audit.
We need a motion first.
Yes, we do.
Ask for a motion.
Yeah, I'll move to accept the audit as it's been presented.
Yeah, this is Ron Peterman. I second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Barham.
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Peterman.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens. Mr. Stevens. Sir, you may be on mute. Try one more time. Mr. Stevens? Okay, we'll come back. Mr. Toops?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens? Okay. Not hearing Mr. Stevens, we do have 4 votes to approve the audit.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
are we going to get an electronic copy of the audit?
We can, several, Brian, it was included with the package. Was it included for Councilman Simmons?
Is it in the package? I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Yes, it was, and we can re-forward that to you. It
Yeah,
should have been an
happy to do it.
electronic
Okay,
attachment.
it's probably there. There are a lot of attachments. Thank you.
We would be happy to resend it so it's at the top of the list, so we can do that.
And
Thank
Ms. Harden and Mr. Reynolds, we appreciate the work on our audit. Hopefully it's one of the more simpler ones you have overall, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Jim, this is Ron Peterman. I have a question. I think we had our treasurer resign. And so do we have a treasurer now?
That is a good question, Mr. Peterman. Your recollection is correct. We did have a couple of resignations from the commission recently, and that did include Mr. Reinenberger, who was your appointed treasurer. So you do now have a vacancy for treasurer, and that is something that should you wish to discuss, we can certainly add that to the agenda under new business.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Before we move on, I would like to just commend our partners at Cherry Beckert, in addition to our finance department and the hard work that they have done over the last few months to assemble the audit report. Ms. Mimi Terry, the city CFO, and her staff, and to include Ms. Patty Phillips, who has assisted greatly over the last few months to get that audit prepared. We've had a number of changes in finance over the last year, and they've really been working hard to make sure that we're on good, sound financial footing. So I did just want to recognize them for their work and commitment to making sure that you have going forward complete financial reports and information at your disposal. So thank you again for your assistance, Ms. Terry and Ms. Phillips. We are now on to our old business portion of the agenda, and we do have a few updates that we would like to provide. If we could advance to the next slide. Okay. We wanted to provide a project update for one of your properties, which is 3920 Burton's Point Road. This property is just south of the South Norfolk Jordan Bridge and Norfolk Naval Shipyard on Burton's Point Road, which is an industrial area of the city. This is a former public schools property that the PPIC acquired, and the property has been under a EPA cleanup process as part of the EPA Superfund program. It is located adjacent to the former Atlantic Wood facility, and there's been a large cleanup effort there that has been ongoing for a number of years to clean up some contaminated soils from the Elizabeth River and surrounding property. We are nearing the completion of that project. We are very close to having a fully completed and remediated project site there. So you can see by the photographs, we have a nice approximately 4-acre capped site that is essentially ready for redevelopment, and we are working hard to market that and have been having some discussions with potential users for the property. Very excited about this. This is one of the properties in your portfolio, and our goal and objective here is to ensure that this property is redeveloped and put into use as soon as possible to get it onto the tax rolls and to assist our industrial community with some potential site locations and expansion efforts here in Portsmouth. So I want to share with you, we do have some work that needs to be completed. Obviously now this is a very attractive 4-acre parking lot, I would say. It's a nice, smooth gravel lot, and we want to ensure that because of the work that was involved to restore the property, that we're protecting the site while it is vacant. So we are in the process of having a security entrance put up with a gate to close the property off. And that will be completed here in the near future. But this is very close to being wrapped up. And hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll have some updates to share with you as far as disposition for reuse.
Brian, one point for the new commissioners. If you look at the right-hand corner of that slide, that is, it's highlighted in yellow. That is, if I'm correct, the PER properties, which was another property that we remarketed, and essentially we're being paid over time. But just there's a second property there that we also were involved with, and just part of how we, reuse property and get it into tax rolls.
Yes, Chair, that is correct. And the PER property is just a little bit further down the street. It may be out of this image, but there is some grant assistance that we're also looking to provide in support of these efforts. And we've got various means and ways of doing that. And we'll certainly delve into that in the near future. But very excited about having this property in a marketable state right now. And I think we'll have a resolution on a reuse here very soon. Are there any other questions about 3920 Burton's Point Road? Okay, we're going to move on to the next item. And there we go. Wanted to provide an update on the Lineage logistics project. This is formerly the Preferred Freezer project, which was acquired by Lineage Logistics last year. Lineage is the largest provider of cold storage, warehousing, and distribution in the world. So they're a global company, and very excited to have them coming to Portsmouth. This is a good example of how the PPIC and the Economic Development Office have partnered with our regional partners at the Hampton Roads Alliance and the Virginia Economic Development Partnership to bring a new 200,000 plus cold storage facility to Portsmouth. We competed with other states for this project, and the other finalist was the Port of Savannah. So very pleased to see that we were the front runner and won Lineage's new location here in Portsmouth, which will bring $60 million in investment and 60 new jobs along with that, with an average salary $50,000 and up. So they are under construction. We are happy to report, and they are very close to going vertical. You will see there are some pieces of equipment that are in the final stages of driving piles. They're at the site, and they'll be pouring concrete here very, very soon. So we have had some delays, but they are back on track, and we would expect them to be up and running by mid-spring of 2021. So I would look very soon here to see the skyline in the West Norfolk area of the city changing, as we have a really fantastic new cold storage facility within immediate proximity to the Port of Virginia's Virginia International Gateway facility rising here in Portsmouth. So very excited to have this one moving forward. Again, this was a project where the PPIC supported financially in partnership with the state of Virginia through the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund. The PPIC has providing some matching grant funds towards the project. You all have allocated $180,000 to match the state of Virginia's contribution to the project, and that is performance-based. So as this project meets certain milestones, the PPIC will be providing financial assistance in the form of some grant funding. Are there any questions about this project that we can answer for you this morning?
Brian, I have one. This is Ron Peterman. Yeah, I thought they were going to change the intersection there on West Norfolk Road as part of this development. And I just drove down there yesterday to check this out, and that's not happened yet, I don't think, unless it's so minor I didn't see it. But is that part of the project? This is something I think we got money from the state to do the relocation of the road so they would have better access.
That is correct, and that has not commenced yet. It's still under a plan review with the Virginia Department of Transportation, but there is a assistance through the VDOT Access Road Funding Program, which will be providing some improvements to West Norfolk Road as you approach this project's location there at the railroad tracks. And will tie into their entrance there just off of West Norfolk Road. So that is correct. That will be occurring. It is still in the plan review process with VDOT, so that may happen towards the tail end of this project wrapping up, but that is something that is under review with VDOT right now.
Under review means funded and going to happen, correct?
Pending their approval of the plans, I believe it's a matter of the plans being approved with VDOT, which is underway right now.
And just to make sure,
Brian, how many people?
I believe, Mr. Barham, you had a question?
Brian, how many people will it employ?
The minimum job count for this project is 60 positions. Those are full-time equivalent positions. And obviously that is subject to change and could potentially increase based on demand and activity there at the facility.
just for everybody, I think you all know it's the old BASF site. It's part of it, and it's just part of where our purpose can be as a player to help refresh, re-energize, and turn properties that are underutilized into job producing and tax producing properties. And so it's exciting to have been a part of it.
Yes, it is, Chair. And this is just half of the former BASF site. So we, and you will see in just a moment, we are working on the redevelopment of the second half of the property, which totals about 18, 19 acres. And that is in the works as well. And we'll provide an update on that in just a moment for you. Are there any other questions on this project before we move forward? Okay, Jessica, if we could advance to the next slide. So one of the other things that we have been working on in our office and have been working with the PPIC closely on is the Port Host Communities Revitalization Fund. This is a new program that was created just 2 years ago by the Virginia General Assembly and the governor's office to provide financial assistance to the state's 5 port host communities. Those communities include, of course, Portsmouth, Norfolk, Newport News, Richmond, and Front Royal. For those of you who are not aware, Front Royal, Virginia has an inland port that is really kind of a rail related facility. But this program was specifically created and provided to provide financial assistance to port host communities due to the fact that hosting port facilities can oftentimes carry with it a challenge for the locality, which often has to deal with real estate that may not be on the tax rolls, and in addition to that, some transportation stresses that may from time to time be be impacted upon the community. So this is to kind of put the city in position to leverage these resources to provide for new economic development opportunity. Specifically, the program is to be utilized for the removal and redevelopment of port-related properties. And port-related is a fairly loosely defined term, but it's really considered to be any non-residential property that was built or used for port-related activities, or is located near a port so as to benefit from port activities, or is located on a transit route that can serve a port facility. So it kind of is a very broad definition there. Eligible properties must exhibit physical or economic blighting conditions in order to qualify for the program. In FY21, as was the case in FY20, the state allocated in its budget $1 million to the program, and the state has a baseline award level of $150,000 per year, essentially per locality. But there is the ability for localities to request additional funds based on a statement of need up to $1 million. It is a competitive process. There is an application that is required, which is submitted by the locality to the state. And our office does solicit interest from the Portsmouth community for projects that may qualify, which we would then submit with the PPIC Commission's authorization to the state for consideration. The program does require a one-to-one match in terms of the grant funds required. If we could go to the next slide. So we're very happy to report that in the program's inaugural year, FY20, we were successful with the application that was made to the state. We had submitted a property at 1 Wild Duck Lane, immediately adjacent to the Virginia International Gateway facility. It was the former Cogentrix coal-fired power plant that many of you may be aware of, that you could see from the Western Freeway there on the skyline. And that property has since been demolished. So the power plant and facility has been cleared, and we now have a clean, marketable property that is free of obstructions and environmental issues, and is in the process of being marketed for redevelopment for industrial use, which could include up to 300,000 square feet of industrial space. So think warehousing, distribution, logistics facility, manufacturing opportunities as well would be well suited for this site. And we are currently working with the property's owner, Industrial Realty Group, for the marketing and redevelopment of this property. We received $500,000 from the state to assist the demolition of the power plant, which was half of the annual allocation. So obviously we're very competitive, and we intend to be going forward with this program to ensure that it's used effectively and maximizing the return for Portsmouth. Are there any questions about this project that we can answer for you this morning?
No, not for me.
One thing to note is that in 2019, we also were successful, which was the first year this was available, and we used it for a similar purpose. And then in 2020, we have this. And one thing Portsmouth has is lots of opportunities for reuse and revitalization. So congratulations to Brian, to Director Moore, and everyone for, again, this is what we do. So it's great.
It certainly is. So I think we're going to potentially have some more positive news to share with you here very soon. We are still in a review period on the FY21 round, but we have submitted a new opportunity and project to the program for FY21, and that is the second phase of the redevelopment of the BASF plant. We lost the slide there. There we go. And this was an application that was approved by the PPIC for submission to the state. And essentially, it's very similar to the last project. It includes the demolition and clearance of the property for redevelopment and marketing. This application has gone in. It's under review. We've had some preliminary review conversations with the state. Hopefully here in the very near future, maybe within 60 to 90 days, we should have a response back on our request, which again was for $500,000 to assist with the cleanup and preparation of this property. So stay tuned on this one. I think we're going to get good news here soon, and we will certainly report back to you once we have that to share. But again, this will be a perfectly timed and suited project for our industrial market in Portsmouth and really the Hampton Roads region, with locations that are really unbeatable in terms of proximity to the port. I believe the next slide has the timeline for the grant program. So we do expect there to be an announcement made soon on the awards. And then we would be looking at a FY 2022 round opening back up again this coming January, which we will be advertising, of course, and posting that to our website where the application would be available for submission for any new projects that we may have. Okay, unless there are any questions, I do believe, Chair, that concludes our old business.
Hey, Brian, could I ask one question on the in the West Norfolk, we had the water main, efforts that we were doing as part of old business. Did that ever come to fruition, or where does that stand?
That is another good question, and that is a ongoing discussion that is being had. I believe the City Council has been looking at that item and has been doing some work to potentially have a resolution to that matter. But I believe at this point in time that item has moved forward to the City Council for discussion and consideration of utility improvements and capital improvements in the West Norfolk community. And the specific project I believe you're referring to is the W.F. McGann expansion there in the West Norfolk community, and some of the utility issues that have been determined to be present.
So that's still under, review by the City Council. Is that the bottom line?
Yeah, yes, it is. That's my understanding.
There'll be some developments there very shortly,
Okay, thank you.
in the next 2 weeks.
Next 2 weeks. Hey, and I sent it, one of the other old business things that we have is at our last meeting, we scheduled a meeting between the Norfolk Naval Shipyard and Jim Toops, myself, the mayor, on the enhanced use lease status. And unfortunately, the shipyard commander got relieved for cause, between then and now. But I sent an email out last night because I met with Doug Taylor yesterday, just to kind of update us as to where we were, because the mayor had asked for a brief within 6 weeks of our August meeting. And unfortunately, because of the relief of the CO, that meeting didn't happen. But that meeting will happen sometime in the next month. And just to let everybody know, just because the CO got fired doesn't mean this thing is not happening. It's still moving ahead. The environmental soil and water testing is all in progress. The report is due to the Navy on the 31st day of January, and they hope to present it to the city on the 1st of February. So that's still happening. And the basis, and the results of that environmental condition report will basically determine, how they can move forward and how much they can move forward with. One of the things that the mayor asked them was, they said that there was, when they put out the RFP for in-kind services, in exchange for the land, they said that, the mayor asked that, why are we opening that up, to commercial enterprises as well as the city? And the lawyers have spoken, and the answer is yes, that's going to happen because it's happened in California where people have built hotels, built parking lots, commercial entities have done it instead of just the city. So that will be addressed in a meeting within the next month to 6 weeks at most. But they would really like to get their preliminary reports back on the environmental condition report before they schedule that meeting. So they, even though their final answer is going to be in the end of January, they're going to get some status meetings here in the next couple of weeks as to what they've sampled and where they are. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody here knew that was still going on. I think that's an old business effort, and the mayor may be a little disappointed that 6 weeks have come and gone, but I think he probably understands that Captain Torkelson is no longer there. So I just wanted to make that report. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Peterman. Mr. Peterman has been spearheading our approach. If you go over the Jordan Bridge and you look to the right along the waterfront, that's property for the shipyard that is underutilized, and they realize it. And part of what Mr. Peterman and the mayor and Brian and the economic development have done is to make sure that the shipyard is aware of our interest, because they're not making more waterfront property. And if we could find a way to obtain, it would be a lease, it wouldn't be ownership, but it would give us additional property to help Brian and his group to market. And we'll see. This thing has twists and turns, but it's worth, if they're considering it, it's worth them knowing that we're in the game and we would very much like it. And so that's just kind of the background. But thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, Mr. Peterman, thank you very much. Obviously very anxious to see the results of the environmental reports that they're working on, and to know the status of the property overall. I mean, it's a prime location on the waterfront, one that we can utilize for many different industrial ventures. So we're excited to hear about the status of that, and please keep us informed.
I will, thank you. And it's an environmental condition report, and I was told to make sure I use those exact words because that's what it is. It's not something else. Okay.
Okay. Under new business, Chair Tufts, I do believe we have a item worthy of discussion, which is your upcoming calendar and meeting schedule for the months of November and December. And given that both of your meetings fall in line with the holidays, I think it's been customary that those meetings in the past have been canceled, and we have typically looked to hold a called meeting as necessary. So want to bring that to your attention and consideration, but those meetings would be on the 24th of November and 22nd of December. So just want to make you aware of that, and have your input.
Yes, sir. Again, this is a every year kind of thing. If you look, our meeting on the fourth Tuesday just happens to be 2 days in front of Thanksgiving. Lots of people traveling, maybe not so much this year, but it'll be interesting. And then the same thing with the Christmas holiday. And so from a perspective viewpoint, if we have something that comes up and we need to meet, we'll call a meeting. We have done that in the past, but you know, want to make sure we have a quorum, and that it doesn't make sense to have a meeting just in front of a holiday. And so this is consistent with past years. We do have meetings. We have lots to do, and we look forward to the new year. But if we have something in the meantime, we'll have a meeting. But otherwise, that's the suggestion.
And just to reiterate, there is the ability to call a special meeting as needed at any point in time. Okay.
And Jim, how about the treasurer position? Are we going to make them do something about that?
Yeah, that would make sense. We have a couple of new members. Our treasurer resigned at the end of June or July, and so that position is open. If anyone, it is not a real intense position, but it is a position of trust and does have some requirements. If anyone is interested, I would ask you to speak up, and we can follow up and see if we can get that position filled on an ongoing basis.
So, Chair, I believe typically we would have a nominating committee that would form and have some discussion. We do have Jeff Miller from the City Attorney's Office, I believe, on the call this morning, and he can provide some additional input, but I do believe it would require a nomination, perhaps a discussion.
In an interim basis, we still have to do that. So I don't know. I mean, Jeff?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I can't get my camera quite right. Yeah, technically you would not have to have a nominating committee for this, but I might suggest that since you do have two brand new board members, and since Mr. Barham has certainly served his time in leadership positions, and you know, I wouldn't blame him if he doesn't want to get back on that track. It may be desirable to just raise the issue today, and then you can have some offline conversations as chair with some board members and see who might be interested. And then at your next meeting, you can elect somebody for the remaining term of Mr. Reinberg.
Absolutely. Not a problem. We can do that.
I think Ned just left the meeting, so I think we ought to nominate him right now.
Yeah. Well, we have 3 potential candidates. We can, as a committee, canvass and come back next time. So that makes sense.
Jeff, thank you for the information and recommendation, and here with your direction, we'll proceed accordingly.
Sounds good.
Okay, we have no other items under new business on the agenda. Chair, there are no items for closed session this morning as well.
Okay.
One last thing, when that meeting with Norfolk Naval Shipyard gets scheduled sometime in the next 6 weeks, who do we want to be at that meeting? I think you and I were at the last one. Who do we need from the city to be there besides the mayor? Elizabeth, are you going to still be around?
Well, I would suggest that Mr. Moody go, because I won't be here after December 31st, and Mr. Moody will, and he's the alternate city council liaison here. So I would put Mr. Moody on that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Donahue, 2 things. One, I don't think anyone is on from the port, but is there a representative from the port on? A lot of times they give an update.
Actually, I do believe we have Mr. Reinhardt from the port on this morning for an update, and that would be an appropriate time for him to share that with us. So, Dustin, are you on the call?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can. Good morning.
Perfect. Good morning. Good morning. Let me share my webcam here and see if you can see me. All right, I'm on. First of all, good morning, and Hopefully everybody's doing well. I do want to give a short little update. As you can see, if you drive next to the PMT area, we're still clearing out a lot of that area and basically utilizing it for the introduction of wind energy. And hopefully that'll be still industry coming to Portsmouth, and it'll be huge for this committee to be able to figure out how that the entire assembly line can work within the city and hopefully bring a lot of tax revenue to the city, as well as development. We want to be the kings of wind here on the East Coast, and it will happen right there in Portsmouth. So it'll be a fantastic opportunity. And then when we look over at VIG, you can see that we are implementing fully the expansion that we've done, and we're seeing not only that the capacity is growing back to normal from what we were seeing in January when China went down due to the pandemic. That's when we started to see those containers kind of dwindling down, and of course when then our shut down, it kind of went down a whole lot. But we're seeing those gradually go up, and I think that's a good sign for the economy. Hopefully it continues that way before if there's any second, third wave, whatever you want to call it. But we are seeing some return to normalcy with a great September surge with our containers. So as we continue down that path, we do want to make sure that we're continuing to move those containers through our facility. And with those big slowdowns that we had when we had a lot of the blank sailings, which essentially are ships scheduled to come to our ports that had no containers to really stop there, just due to the economic downturn. Again, seeing those going up and revitalizing that capacity. So at the end of the year, we almost got to about the same container capacity that we had years prior to. But with that, you could see with that massive shutdown, we were faring pretty well prior to that, and we're going to continue on that pace, particularly this year, and we'll see continued capacity growing, which means again more jobs for the Commonwealth and more companies moving to Portsmouth, as what this committee is here to do. So hopefully it's a great opportunity to continue to move forward with. And that's pretty much it. We're looking to return to normalcy here at the port when it comes to international trade.
Thank you, Mr. Reinhardt. It's always great to hear the update. Excited to move forward with you. The only other thing that I had was Councilwoman Simmons is retiring from council, and probably a retirement well earned, and has been a friend to this commission and has been very helpful to us. And so, we wish you very well. I'm sure you won't disappear, but we also thank you for everything you've done for us through the past years.
Thank you, Jim. And that reminds me, when Mr. Peterman was asking about who should go to that meeting in the next 6 weeks, we should have a new mayor elected before that meeting. So I would definitely recommend that whomever is elected as the new mayor should also attend that meeting. And you won't be, that person will be able to attend, because even if Mr. Moody and Mr. Rowe attend, the newly elected mayor can also attend, because they won't have been sworn in and you won't have more than 2 members of council. So I think that's a good idea to get them up to speed. Well, it depends on who's elected. I take that back. Depends on who's elected. But consider that in your invitations.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, we won't meet again unless there's a called meeting before the end of the year. And so what I would encourage everyone to do is to stay safe, have a happy holiday, and we're all just kind of learning as we go with this COVID stuff. But thank y'all for participating today, and look forward to a strong 2021 with this committee.